Hi. An idea that I have found interesting throughout my study in this course is the Christian thought and practice of one holy Catholic Church. Now, although this is a recent study in our course, it's been very intriguing to me considering the history of the Western Church and even where the Western Church finds itself today, denominationally and just in the different sectors that we find ourselves separated. The church is the collection of all believers all around the world. I like to call it the Big C Church. So the Big C Church is the collection of believers all around the world, and that is all the churches that encompass the tenets of sound doctrine on the theology of God and creation. And in an introduction to Christian theology, Gonzalez states on page 159 that the church is Catholic, not because it is everywhere, but because it includes all believers. It doesn't place an emphasis on any denomination specifically in the text, but in the sense of being completely unified is what the emphasis is on, as one body. My common knowledge of this has been to be referred as the bride of Christ. And it's important to note that belonging to this bride means that you are unified with the bride's understanding, beliefs, and practices of the tenets of the Christian faith. And although local churches may operate independently, being part of the one holy Catholic Church would mean that our mission and purpose is collective, not individual. Also, in an introduction to Christian theology, Gonzalez states on page 146 that unity in the ancient church was understood in terms of participating in the same communion, mutual acknowledgement, and agreement on the essential points of Christian doctrine. And prior to this course, I had a loose understanding of what it meant for the church to be Catholic. However, I would not have probably used that word to describe it. I would have used that the church is the bride of Christ. I had somewhat of an understanding that the bride of Christ was not just me, but that it was in some kind of way most believers, if not all believers. I wasn't sure about the denominational divides and what that meant in terms of the bride of Christ. But some factors that have shaped my understanding are my church context. I grew up in a non-denominational church, so there were interdenominations, or should I say interdenominational. We didn't claim a specific denomination, but there were people of many denominations in my church. And so this kind of did set somewhat of a framework for me for understanding that our denominations should not divide us from belonging to Christ, as long as we have the true tenets of the faith. Another factor that likely influenced my understanding was tribalism. And what that looked like in my life is mainly as a teenager, I remember having these rivalries with other churches as though my church were the true church, the real church, and their church was not as real, not as true. And so I think that slightly distorted my understanding of what it meant for the church to be unified. And through my study in this course, my prior understanding that we all exist in local churches to serve as one bride, one Big C church to Christ was confirmed in learning about the Catholic nature of the church. Becoming firm in this new understanding is helping me and will continue to help me connect with God in a way that's not individualistic. There is a big temptation in our society today to perceive that our relationship with God is only personal, but our relationship with God is communal because He desires family and He saved all of us. God so loved the world, everyone. And so all that He calls to Himself belong to him collectively. And I think it's beautiful that Jesus is going to return for one bride, and that we are part of the one. And that was his prayer, was for the Father to make us one as he and the Father are one. So I think that just that's going to help me to connect with God on a much deeper level, and to, when I come to him, not only view my goals and things as personal, but things that are contributing to his family, and seeing myself as more than just one person, but a member of God's family. And that helps me feel like I have a place to belong, and that I belong with him. And along with this, I believe that engagement in my community will deepen because of my understanding of the communal life that God is calling us to as his people. I'll be able to engage with my community in greater understanding, and desire to have my life benefit them and not just me. Living for your own success and well-being is normal and it's natural, to everyone, but living for the shared success and benefit of God's family, that is God's design. And that's what I want to be a part of. So I'm grateful to have learned this information and to have become solidified in this truth and this Christian thought and practice.